Hello, Marcus Ryan. Hello, Elephant Fish. I hope you two are good. I just realised I haven't got headphones in. Oh, and I got itchy eyes. You two are the only ones here so far. Double members, hellos though. MSH, hello. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I am currently chilling, streaming, doing everything that I need to be doing. Yeah, moving loose, you could say. Oh, I've got very soft hands as well because I've been moisturising them because the cold in Montreal makes me obsess over them and they feel really dry. So, yeah. Hello, fellow kids. Hello. I am live and alive coming from Montreal again. My hair is really long, I keep realising. But we move. Let's just pull up the live. Nice timing. I just finished watching Empanada's Cuba video. Was it any good? It looked fine. It looked pretty decent. My hair, I went to bed with wet hair, which is the issue. I hate going to bed. I hate going to bed with wet hair, but I keep doing it because I need to wash my hair. I don't know why I did it yesterday. I just felt unclean. Yeah. Hold on, I'm just saying I'm live. Yeah, I do have long hair now. Okay, right. Are you happy about Tottenham getting relegated? I'm not exactly sad about Tottenham getting relegated. Looking like SSJ Gohan 2. Is my hair that sticky uppy? I probably should have wet it. Oh yeah, my hair is pretty sticky uppy. You should see what it looks like. It's pretty sticky uppy. It's not good. Sticky uppy hair. It should look like this, but I haven't had my hair cut in over a month nearly, so... In fact, I haven't had my hair cut in well over a month. I think I got my hair cut in like mid-March maybe. One of you can work that out from my videos. But yeah, good afternoon or maybe morning. It is morning as I'm in Canada today. What's your stance on Chapel Roan versus That Child Who Must Go? Pink Pony Club is a banger. Hot to Go. H-O-T-T-O. How do you do it? H-O-T-T-O-G-O. I like that. So maybe the child has to go because what has Jorginho's child ever done? Her father was a pretty good midfielder, scored some pretty okay penalties for Chelsea. Aside from that, but she can't even claim those achievements. It's much more that, Chapel has made that song. I turned 41 on Wednesday. Congratulations. I hope that you're looking forward to turning 41. Happy birthday for then. I don't trust a child with a Chanel bag. Yeah. The child should be treated like the Swansea ball boy. Interesting. I look like the guy from Eraserhead. With his haircut. Not the baby, though, from Eraserhead, which I saw the other day, and I quite liked. I also watched Paris, Texas last night, and it was okay. I don't really know why people see it as such a major classic. It was good. I guess it just didn't speak to me. Lonabox must be having conniptions at the direction of this Iran debacle is headed. He was quite up for it a month ago. Yeah, so were loads of people, because loads of people are genuinely moronic and don't give a solitary shit about the world around them and everything that's happening. It's all just a grift and believing in false memories and treating people to the left of them as the problem when, Trump keeps winning against not very left people and fascists keep winning against not very left people. I hope your day is going well. It's going good. It's overrated. Paris, Texas or Eraserhead. Eraserhead I didn't think was overrated because people don't rate it as Lynch's best movie. I thought it was interesting and bizarre. I definitely thought it had nothing on Blue Velvet. But yeah. Just got back from Guatemala into this madness. Hell yeah, I hope you enjoyed Guatemala. I just am still in Canada. Loving living large. Yeah, it's unparalleled amounts of winning, one might say. Paris, Texas, yeah, definitely overrated. Not goated film. Oh, fuck me. I got lost on a mountain over the weekend. What mountain? Why were you there, and how did you get down? Did you have to call mountain rescue? Because if so, that's a bit of an ick. It's pretty lame. You should have fended for yourself like those little babies in Sparta. Spartan babies fending for themselves. What's the best thing about Canada? A&W, cheddar, bacon, Uncle Burger. No, I don't know. I guess a lot of it's Montreal specific. I like Metro, the shop, so that's good. I like my girlfriend. I like I like those things. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'd pick. It's just I prefer certain things. I prefer the legality of certain activities over here. Lost Highway is great. Haven't seen it. I really want to. Some Iranian I know posting congratulations to Iran after Khamenei died. Like, and I'm not mourning his death, but could you not really see the crap that would be coming onto Iran? Well, it's also just that people are really stupid. Like, I'm sorry. Any of you here have watched Yahya Sinwar be killed? You've watched Mohammed Sinwar being killed. You watched Mohammed Diaf be killed. You've watched basically every single senior Hamas figure be killed by Israel, and Hamas exists. Hamas is the least powerful of the axis of resistance. I mean, even the Houthis have overtaken Hamas now, just in terms of Hamas being cut off from the rest of the world. And yet Hamas is still there. Hamas still exists, so yeah. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. These people are they're the equivalent of morons who are like, when Netanyahu dies, everything with Israel will be fine. If Netanyahu was gone, Israel would be a great country. Completely ignoring the fact that, like, yeah, it's obviously bigger than one, creepy old sort of man. That being Netanyahu. Made it back. We got stuck on the Sentinel Peak in Drakensberg when the storm... Fucking hell. It's legal in the UK if you get a prescription for the... Oh, sorry. I don't know if you guys can hear that. If any of you are Patreon members, you'll already know about this. And by the way, if Fit TT here is, we shot you back... Well, my girlfriend shot you back. The... what food is... what food is being made... I want to warn you, it's making a green goddess salad dressing. I don't know what that is. If you can hear that, I don't know. But yeah, people who just believe that one assassination fixes all the problems are insane. I'm sorry. It's, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you saw, I guess, like, a topic that I wanted to talk about was fucking Gavin Newsom. The savior of the left. He's posting images of himself as fucking Patrick Bateman. Sorry, excuse me, I just burped. I had fried rice for breakfast this morning. Just watch this video of Gavin Newsom.
So let's wrap here with a few lightning round adjacent questions. Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Do I consider myself a Zionist? Yes. I believe, I revere the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel. Yes. I deeply, deeply oppose Bibi Netanyahu's leadership.
By the way, if Tucker Carlson runs in 2029, he will smoke Gavin Newsom. He will win a large amount. He will capitalize on a huge amount of pro-Palestinian people who, see this from Gavin Newsom. He reveres the state of Israel. He reveres the state of Israel. This is, by the way, the guy that there was a controversy over Hasan saying he wouldn't instantaneously vote for. This guy reveres the state of Israel. He effectively, he thinks that it's like some kind of shining example. But don't worry, he has got a caveat to that.
His opposition to the two-state solution, and deeply oppose how he is indulging the far right as it relates to what's going on in the West Bank.
So let's wrap here with a few lightning round adjacent questions.
Oh my God, this is one of the worst features, trying to get
Consider yourself a Zionist.
Do I consider myself a Zionist?
Yeah.
One of the worst features, sorry if that was a bit loud, one of the worst features of using this sort of shitty setup is that trying to close a video that's on full screen is a little bit difficult. Sorry if you can hear the blender as well. It's really, it's a bit loud. Is there visuals? What? Oh, shit, you couldn't see it. Sorry, I'll replay that clip. Because you couldn't see it. Hold on. Many, many sincere apologies. Sorry that you couldn't see that. We will rewatch it. Excuse me. That's not good enough. Sorry, we're going to have to rewatch that.
Let's wrap here with a few lightning round adjacent questions. Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Do I consider myself a Zionist?
Yes.
I believe, I revere the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel.
Yes.
I deeply, deeply oppose Bibi Netanyahu's leadership, his opposition to the two-state solution, and deeply oppose how he is indulging the far right as it relates to what's going on in the West Bank.
So let's wrap here with a few lightning round adjacent questions.
I genuinely think what's going to happen is Netanyahu retires, dies, loses the next election, and then after that you will get, Naftali Bennett, who gets his image whitewashed and they portray him as some kind of fucking dove. I just wouldn't put it past these people. Like, honestly, if you sit there and tell me that the problem is one guy when you've had basically no large societal pushback against doing fucking genocide, what is there to say? Israel's invading Lebanon. Israel's doing ethnic cleansing there. It's, engaged in an illegal war of Iran against Iran, pushing the US in part into it. And it's just like, is this really the best that you can get out of the American left? Yep, it is exactly what they'll do. They'll say after Trump, we need adults in the room. Also, by the way, Politico reported that, I believe this is from a Politico interview actually, Gavin Newsom says he regrets using the term sorry, 1 second. There's a blender. Libs love individualizing systems. Of course, because it's easier than confronting that Israel was always bad, was always morally repugnant, and there is no morality in it. I'm sorry. Even like the saving graces is like, well, no one else in Europe allowed Jewish people to go anywhere, so they all had to go to the Middle East. Okay, doesn't mean that they had to set up a Jewish settler colony there. Doesn't mean that they had to do that. It doesn't fundamentally alter, it doesn't fundamentally alter the fact that Israel is a settler colony. Chris, did you move? No, I'm just in Montreal for one more week. I'm back next Wednesday. So from there should be streams, but there might be 2 days off, which would be a little bit upsetting because, it's just double podcast, but I may talk to Isaac about moving that, but still, I'm looking forward to being back. I'm looking forward to seeing you, but no, I've not moved. I need to set up a new, I need to get a better setup out here, but yeah, that's future thing. This is not for now. Looking very fit. I haven't been to the gym in ages and I'm not really in great shape at the moment. I need to stop eating so much, but I think I've been good about that here. Join our community Discord. Yes, and by the way, I think you should join the community Discord, and another reason for that is, especially once I'm back, I'm going to use it as the way to do notifications. I'll still put out a tweet saying, hey, I'm live, but still, I think if you really want notifications, if you don't want to trust YouTube's shaky algorithm for like notifying, check it out there. Bernie is a typical sockdem. He just wants capitalism that's more favourable to the in-group. The fact that he is seen as the leader of America's left is a damning indictment. I think some people kind of viewed him as like a force that would progress towards the would progress towards something better. But it is pretty shocking how bad his foreign policy is, especially in comparison to Jeremy Corbyn, men of similar ages, men who probably were, closest to power in terms of one the most important former imperial power, and won this one. Not to say Bernie was actually that close, but closer than most of someone who has any kind of serious any kind of left-wing credentials at all. But the thing is that Jeremy Corbyn's foreign policy is pretty good. Can we flirt in Discord? No, flirting's probably banned under the rules of the tyrant moderators who ban everything. Joy is banned. In that Yonomi Park meme, it's like some former Discord dissident is posting like how they're suffering. Was lieutenant governor, and at one point he was the highest ranking Democratic official to publicly support single payer. Abandoned it as gov. What do you mean single payer? What do you mean? What was support single payer? A system where. Oh, okay. So what, like government finance? Okay, I see what you mean. I've never heard. I don't know why I've not heard it described as that. Perhaps that's just showing that I just don't know enough. But yeah, public healthcare, basically. I mean, yeah, that's good. That's good that he did it once upon a time, but unsurprising that he failed. Within a microsecond, he abandoned it. Peter Sumlin of Vermont did something similar to, where he ran on a pro single payer statewide campaign and became the governor, and then undermined it. Yeah, I mean, just these people suck. But read this. Sorry. Gavin Newsom says he regrets using the term apartheid in relation to Israel, and says he used it in the same way Tom Friedman does, as a term that describes where Israel is heading under Netanyahu, not a term describing the current reality. What? I would actually love to hear. I don't know how Tom Friedman explains it as to how they're headed that way, if it's not already a reality. What more could Netanyahu do to institute an apartheid? What more could he do? These people are just gaming you. At least Tucker Carlson fucking does something. Tucker Carlson outflanking the vast majority of the American left is really awesome. I think that's actually a really positive thing. And all the pro-Israel shills should actually look in the mirror and think that they've done a really good job continually supporting Israel. I think it's actually amazing. I think, you know what? I think you should probably sit down and have a great think about how bad it is. How brilliant it is. Excuse me. What does Israel have on Gavin Newsom? Nothing. These people are just establishment shills who don't want to change the world. They don't, because they're happy with the current status quo. The free Palestine actually represents some kind of challenge and change to the reality of this world. Most of these fucks are just kind of happy with the world going on as is, and, Israel being our closest ally ever because it maintains a good status quo that people find acceptable and justified, It's not acceptable, it's not just or moral, but loads of people just love it. Yeah, I mean, the fact that this is just also the hope of the left and the guy who's going to apparently make major changes when he doesn't think Israel is an apartheid state. Oh, okay, wait, there is actually a video of him saying it. So he's already walking back his pod save.
Consider yourself a Zionist.
Do I consider myself a Zionist? Yes. I believe, I revere the state of Israel. I'm proud to support the state of Israel. Yes. I deeply, deeply oppose Bibi Netanyahu's leadership, his opposition to the two-state solution, and deeply oppose how he is indulging the far right as it relates to what's going on in the West Bank.
Do you regret using the word apartheid to describe?
It's also kind of crazy talking about indulging the far right. The Israeli government, the Israeli cabinet is the far right. Right? It just is. The far right make up key positions in the government there. Just to rehash that. We've watched this video 3 times now, but
I used it. I do in this context that I said it, and I referenced why I used it. A Tom Friedman article in that same sentence, where Tom used it in the context of the direction that Bibi is going.
Not the current
state.
And the
concern, correct.
Okay.
And that is a legitimate concern I have, that I share with Tom, that direction, if that vision and that direction of the...
Guys, I was just concerned about where South Africa was heading, where South Africa headed. It wasn't actually that bad. It was just where it was heading. That's when you describe apartheid South Africa as an apartheid state, it was where it was headed.
Are right that Bibi is indulging, that if they see the full annexation of the West Bank, then that's not something. That's a word you may hear others use.
Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Do I consider myself a Zionist?
Yes.
I believe in, I revere.
Oh my God. Sorry, excuse me. Just things popping up. You know, change sign before. I don't think Gavin Newsom will ever change. I don't think he will end up going on Hasan's stream, by the way. I don't think he will. I don't think he's actually that competent of a political operator. When he's not hiding behind tweets tweeted out by someone who's like vaguely more left-wing than him, I actually don't think he's very competent. I think it's kind of pathetic to... I mean, yes, I think someone just pointed it out there. He lost a debate to Ben Shapiro.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Gavin Gruesome flip Newscum is at it again. I assume you meant flip-flop Newscum. I mean, it's just... I'm sorry, like... Tucker Carlson was kind of doing it too. I don't know if any of you seen it. He had Avraham Berg, who was like a former Israeli president, on, and he was talking about how like Netanyahu's like the problem is now the far right are like fully in power and like Israel's gone bad. And I do worry that they're trying to whitewash this image. And by the way, it's not even a real thing anymore. Like what this image relies on is kind of a labor establishment in Israel that died so many years ago. Like it just, matter of fact, doesn't exist. This alternative, government in Israel, this alternative political party disappeared, pretty much with the first election of Likud. And even then, it wasn't materially that different. It was still a settler society. It just maybe prior to the 6-Day War wasn't as interested in expanding Israel's borders. But since that date, it has morphed more and more into a party that is just exactly the same. Like, what's his name demolished more houses. Barak demolished more houses. Things don't change. Things don't change, unfortunately, in Israel. And most people there are pretty fucking racist. You can just watch a street interview. You can watch a street interview with Israelis, and they're like, today I like genociding Palestinians. What if we genocided all the Palestinians? I actually think maybe we should do ethnic cleansing. I actually think that we as Jewish people have a special right to do whatever we want in the Middle East. That is basically just the average interview with an Israeli. There was a great example of it the other day of someone, and someone was like, are you being sarcastic? Because I said, if you disagree with this lady, you are silencing Israeli voices. Just listen to this. Listen to what her opinions. I like her. By the way, guys, sit your white asses down and listen to indigenous Middle Eastern.
למחוק את שמאל או ימין?
אמצע.
מה זה ניצחון באמת?
למחוק אותם?
שתי מדינות לשני עמים.
פצצת אטום, כדי שנחיה.
אפשר לחיות עם ערביי ישראל?
לא, ערבי טוב זה ערבי.
למחוק את שמאל או ימין?
אמצע.
מה זה ניצחון?
This is the center in Israel. I mean, it's pretty much actually the center in America too, when it comes to anyone deemed inferior to the Westerners, but... Israelis look like American leftists but sound like KKK Klan members. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the centre and the centre establishment in both the UK and America aren't that different. They may not enunciate it in the same ways, but they continually give cover and support to Israel doing exactly that. Oh, also, I just quickly wanted to say, Knox, thank you for the $2, and Lemon Minkcat, thank you for the incredibly kind donation. Zionism is racism. Zionism is a racist, inherently genocidal ideology. As a Lebanese person, Zionism is killing my people and poisoning my homeland. Smotrich wants to steal it. Any other definition is bullshit. Yes, of course. Like, I think that the other core. I think that the other core part of this is, right, is like, me and Isaac and I mentioned this in the podcast episode. David Ben-Gurion talked about taking the Litani River. David Ben-Gurion was an early Israeli socialist, like, or a left-winger in Israel. And he believed that Israel should take up to the Litani River. I believe they were meddling in Lebanese politics in 56, like funding and backing the Maronites. I'm sure that they were. But thank you for the donation. And yeah, like, what's going on in Lebanon, by the way, just being a fucking side note, is unbelievable. Israel is carrying out an ethnic cleansing bigger than the Nakba. Obviously not scale relative population size wise, but still in terms of the number of people being ethnically cleansed, it is a similar number. And by the way, I think Israel will take southern Lebanon. And also, just on combative interviewers, by the way, I think the person who made who made Destiny look the most fucking stupid was Adam Friedland, because he didn't try and have some intellectual debate with him. He pointed to this, like, kind of, the crux of Destiny's ideology being genuinely being stupid. And I think that sometimes works. And I do like Theroux's interview style. I think my bigger problem with something like The Settlers, which isn't really a problem, and I like it, is much more how The Settlers is then used by people like Newsom and all of these people who are basically like by all of these people who are basically like Daniela Weiss is the problem. It's just a couple of mad people, not the Israeli government in general, when the settlers are part of it. But I do still like Theroux's interview style. I just think there's a balance in even debating of like kind of the sort of getting so emotive, which is something I've always struggled in and probably why I'm not actually the best debater. I've seen some great organising events, but I missed it. What organising events are you talking about? What's up, Guzzlers? Alejandro, good to see you. Yeah, I'm not sure Lonerbox is going to be very fucking receptive to anything. Don't most Israeli secularists oppose settler expansions? Yes and no. Because, like, most Israelis will be like, God, I hate those crazy settlers. But then they spend their time fighting against Western actual leftists and Palestinians and blame Hamas for the problems and act as if those settlers are like a radical problem that is somehow not related or specific to the actual Israeli government, when the hard fact is that these people are backed entirely by the Israeli government. They're backed entirely by the Israeli government. Every Israeli is a settler. Yeah, you're not wrong about that at all. You're not wrong. A politician, he's a modern day Christopher Hitchens if he had access to an Elgato and methamphetamines. What? Do you know Christopher Hitchens supported Hezbollah? He was like, Hezbollah are like well, he didn't support them. He was like, they are a genuine resistance movement. But yeah, most people use the radicals in Israeli society as this kind of means to justify their support for the center and be like, well, they're just, some kind of outlier. When the hard fucking reality is that, like, they're not an outlier. They're supported entirely by the Israeli government. They just are. What? So just like US government backs... What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I quite understand that. No, you probably would find a considerable number of Israelis who are like, most people don't actually like the settlers. And by the way, not everyone living in the West Bank is like one of those hilltop youth kind of guys who wander around and have the sort of like get up and do just mass violence against Palestinians. Not all of them are. But there are still a considerable number of people who live there. Why do you keep asking me about Dengism? I'm not enough of an expert on China. I don't know why it's... I don't know enough about China, I'm going to be honest. One day I'll be able to answer that question to you fully, but right now, that's not my greatest thing. I'm still learning about China, mate. The bar is so low in the West. I mean... I think Christopher Hitchens would probably support what's happening in Iran. And also, on the bar, I guess Jeremy Corbyn was pretty decent, especially on internationally, on foreign policy. And you do occasionally find people, but it's few and far between.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Crazier by the day, like the Sheriff's Hat in Scary Movie 3. Thanks for the $5, Scythe. My hair is pretty crazy, but it only gets crazy because I went to sleep with wet hair. Which is just it. It's not that bad, I swear. And it's just too long. I don't have long hair very often anymore, and I don't have like a comb or anything. Chris maintains strategic ambiguity in East Asia. The truth is like I just it's not my area of expertise. I'm learning, but yeah, I'm learning. We'll see one day. Yeah, my hair in the no politic video is crazy. I don't know what was going on there. Corbyn doesn't want Iran to have nukes. Corbyn doesn't want anyone to have nukes, though. He's like pro-nuclear disarmament, which, you know, I guess it's moral consistency. Although I do know a lot of people who think and feel like Corbyn and are from the same ilk as Corbyn actually kind of no longer feel that way. And actually are just like, well, we live in a world and are kind of pragmatic about it and are like, Israel and America have them, so why doesn't Iran, have them? I've already been asked about him being. I don't know everything about. I've already been asked. I like your name, Vladimir Lenin, as in assume that's an Aaron Lennon reference. But I don't really care that much about Spurs getting relegated. Kind of happy. Kind of like, yeah. Dengism is an ideology. You don't need to know everything about China to share your position. I feel like I do need to know quite a lot about China to give my opinion about Dengism. I'm sorry. I apologise. I mean, eventually that would be great. But it's the most aggressive imperialist countries need to be the first to give theirs up. Yeah, but that's where Corbyn comes from. But as I'm saying, like some people like him who are like fans of like nuclear disarmament are fans of it. Have you watched the new North Star Radio on Ethan? He makes points about how he's a right-wing podcaster. I mean, Ethan employs a guy who said that. Ethan employs a guy who was literally 1 year ago today doing genocide denial about the Rafah massacre by the Israelis. He employs a slug woman who says the F slur quite regularly to gay people, to gay men, which is kind of crazy. And also he, himself was saying that the only moral position was to invade Iran a few weeks ago. Yeah. Why doesn't everybody at this point? God knows Israel hasn't been shy about wielding the threat of nuclear warfare. It's actually why Assad had chemical weapons, by the way. I mean, obviously a horrifying weapon, but the reason that Assad had chemical weapons and the reason that the Americans were so interested in getting off them was obviously not them actually being used on their own civilians. America doesn't give a shit about that. They literally, had no problem with Saddam doing it, and they tried to blame the Iranians for doing it, even though it was definitely, it was definitely the Iraqis. Assad had them as a counterbalance to Israeli nuclear weapons. That's why he had them. It's not like some big fucking secret. That's why Assad had them. And the Americans wanted them off him because they were a counterbalance to Israel. So you don't even necessarily need them. But Iran has always been a bit hesitant about using chemical weapons. They did not use them during the Iraq War. They could have. They had them, but they chose not to, which is fucking crazy as well, because so many Iranians were just killed by Saddam. And she does look like the slug hatched from an egg. It's the width of her head. It just like fills a screen. By the way, it's amazing what sycophancy can do for you. And maybe we should all consider just becoming a sycophant, because right now it can get you a job in the two most powerful positions and cultural institutions in America. You can either become a sycophant and join the Trump administration, or you can become a sycophant and join the Ethan Klein podcast. Assad should have stepped down. I mean, I hear different things. I hear different things. Like, some people say that it's like a fully outside-backed rebellion to tear apart Syria, But then there was also definitely a local element, and apparently Assad was negotiating in good faith, but then I also hear people say actually he wasn't. Who got a big head that covers up the screen? Have you not seen Girl with a Microphone? Girl with a Microphone's head is crazy! It's like covering a whole screen. I have never seen anything like it. Where is she? Hold on, where's a video of her talking? Her head is just like, I don't know, it's just insane. She's a woman NBA stan account. Wait, there's probably a video of her. Have none of you noticed, like, her head is just massive? Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry, I'm just having some idiocy with my... Right, let me see if this fixes. Hold on, I want to see if refreshing fixes it. Hold on. Wait, there'll definitely be a video of her. Just look. Wait. Look at this. Look at this. Hold on. Oh my fucking god, fuck off. God, I can't wait to have my MacBook. Look at her head. It's like, look at this. This is Epic Burger Man, whose face is probably inflated from the amount of sulfur that he's eaten. But Girl with the Microphone's head. Look at it. Look at it. How do you even do this? How does a head become like this? It is, you know, insane. This has to be looked into. How this has happened. And by the way, some people are probably like, you shouldn't say that. That's mean. She sat next to a friend of a neo-Nazi, first of all. Literally a guy who has like a fucking YouTube series with a neo-Nazi. And also, a woman is saying the F slur. This guy's also like a fucking fan of, this guy's a fucking fan of genocide denial. So, I don't know. I don't know whether I do feel bad about talking about this fucking piece of shit. And by the way, also, like, these people are just like a right-wing fucking talking head podcast that spend their time, like, just spend their time, like, criticising, fucking, like, just criticising Hasan for going to Cuba. And it's just like, my fucking god, you know. You don't give a shit about anything else. I don't even know if I'm fat shaming. She's just got a big ass head. Like, I've got a big ass head. But it's just, I don't know. This woman is awful. This woman works for a fucking guy who was advocating for Trump to bomb Iran a week ago. And the reason she works for him is being a sycophant. This is just a straight up right-wing podcast. You know? It just is. You are tiny. No, my head is large. I remember when I was a kid, my friend always used to talk about how I had like a big head. I don't know. I find all of this really strange. I find all of this really, really, really strange. Like that. This is just the thing. Oh look, here's my podcast co-host. I like this clip. I really enjoyed this clip actually.
Dr. Che Guevara. Tales about the supposedly racist and homophobic revolutionary Dr. Che Guevara, who apparently gave up on his Hippocratic oath and decided to Michael Myers his way across the island for no good reason.
Did you know that Che Guevara, was he the Cuban guy?
Che Guevara.
Well,
or was that Castro?
Castro was Cuban. Che, he was part of the Cuban Revolution. He wasn't Cuban himself.
Yeah, Che, the revolutionary, he once executed a 12-year-old for being too anti-revolutionary. Shot him in the face, bro.
Yeah, no, he didn't do.
I like this. I like this story that Che Guevara executed a 12-year-old. Also, Knox. She looks like Roz from Monsters Inc. She does look like Roz from Monsters Inc. She really does. By the way, as well, I think something else that's really like fucking worth saying. I think something that's really worth saying about fucking all of this is like Ethan has been calling everyone Nazi bitches and has trying to be ruin their lives, sending his like deranged fans who worship a decrepit 40-year-old man who descended into such a cycle of madness that he claimed that he wasn't like, you know, pro-Israel or anything, but is now like doing a is now doing a thing of supporting Israel's genocide. Israel's assault on Iran. Like Ethan categorically has supported it. How can you not know who Che, the Cuba guy, is? Yeah, I am pretty surprised. I'm pretty surprised that you don't know who he is. That Che Guevara is. I don't know. I feel like Che Guevara, even if you fucking hate him, is pretty evident of a character. I don't know. It's all just pretty insane to me that largely a lot of online posting is just spending your time being upset over Hasan and then being like, vote Democrats, and there's not really any thought or feeling put into it, you know. It's kind of just it. You just do that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's all fucking insane to me. Also, by the way, I don't know. I don't know how you can't know who Che Guevara is. I don't know. Like, I'm not really an expert in the Cuban Revolution at all. You guys know that I spent most of my time studying the Middle East. I spent most of my time recently reading about, like, Iran and Lebanon, and I don't really get much time to read theory anymore, which I could do, but I just haven't really been in a theory mood. I mean, I've read a lot of, like, psychoanalysis in recent years, but just this is it. Like, I feel like all of the questions about this, like, have already been spoken about. I saw Bad Empanada criticizing Hasan for part of this, and he's like, because Hasan said, oh, we had to stay in a 5-star hotel, which isn't actually really true, but there is like a prohibition on where you can and can't stay. And first of all, Hasan didn't book it. Whoever organised it, I can't remember what they're called, whoever organised it booked the hotel, and they booked them into like some hotel that's on a government approved list. And also because they wanted a hotel that could house that many people. Would Democrats have bombed Iran? No, maybe not. But the thing is that the Iranians are that the Democrats would have prepared for it. It is progressive international. Like literally, the Midnight Hammer bombing run was prepared for under the Biden administration. It was prepared for by every administration that came for it. What's the last book on theory you read? I started reading Mari Ruti's book, Lacan and the Immortal Being, Within, and the Immortal Within. And I only read the first 2 chapters. And the Singularity of Being, Lacan and the Immortal Within is what it's called. But then previously, back cover to cover, I haven't read probably anything since Right and Left Enjoyment by Tom McGowan. I just tend to read articles now. Wanted to ask you for a long time, how come a white British blonde studied Middle Eastern studies? That sentence, because I just enjoyed it when I did it at school and ended up studying that instead. I ended up studying that instead. Most of the time when I want to read theory, I haven't read any theory this year. I started one of Tom McGowan's books, but I've been consumed by reading. I've been consumed by reading the stuff about Iran. I read a lot of Evran Abrahamian. I've been consumed by reading things like that. And also, by the way, this is also like one of the things that's taken up most of the time this year is just reading every single article. Although this is now becoming a problem because all removed paywalls don't work anymore, which is really fucking annoying. Is that why he spelt it with 3 letters, that he was going to peg Hasan? Because obviously it wasn't enough letters to say kill or whatever people thought it was. But I thought he did criticise the 5-star hotel thing. I thought he did. I thought there was a post criticising him. But ultimately for me, I think like one aid mission is never going to save Cuba. In the same way that the freedom flotillas were never actually going to get to Gaza. There was only the smallest chance that a freedom flotilla would have ever gotten to Gaza. But the whole point is I wouldn't demean it. I wouldn't make out that they were a joke. Obviously, in part because of how much a major risk the freedom flotillas actually were, which is a major difference. But in comparison to the... in comparison to flying to Cuba, you know, there's not a major risk. And obviously sleeping on a ship is probably not a very pleasant experience. However, simultaneously, what the point of it was to like point out the obscenity of Israel's blockade, that you and like have people focused on this thing. And in fact, the way they conducted themselves was really good on the Freedom Flotilla, because a lot of them didn't even mention themselves being abused by the Israeli forces. Greta Thunberg was just like brutalized by the Israelis, which I believe is 100% true. And I don't know. I think like bringing media coverage and producing media of speaking to Cubans and like criticize TrueAnon all you want, but TrueAnon has an insane listener base. It's one of the most probably the popular one of the most popular podcasts in the world. And you know, they will talk to people. Have you read any non-lib theory? If you're going to sit there and dismiss Mari Ruti and other people as lib theory, genuinely, what is the point? What is the point of just discounting people who think differently to you as just lib theory? What is the point? What constitutes non-lib theory for you? What would I have to read to mean non-lib theory? If I was sat here talking about West toxification or something, or is that too libbed out? If I was reading Orientalism by Edward Said would probably constitute a lib in the minds of quite a lot of people. You know, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't quite have this desire to dismiss everything that isn't entirely ideologically aligned with me as just lib. Like, I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid to just disregard everything that everyone might say. Because let's be real here as well. What, should I be reading someone who's writing about... Like, this isn't even a case of get him. Should I just be reading the works entirely of people who died 100 years ago, who confronted a world that doesn't exist anymore, the world and the plans that they had for things that didn't emerge in the kind of ways that they'd hoped? But how is Edward Said the go? Edward Said didn't speak Arabic. Edward Said had an office that was like, you know, seen... well, Edward Said is kind of framed as this, like, glorious star academic who in many ways served to undermine, like, the long intellectual trajectory that came before him. There are actually huge criticisms that you could make of this guy, by the way. You could literally sit here and go, well, he didn't even create Orientalism. He didn't, and he gets all of the credit for it because he spoke English and because he didn't really speak Arabic. There are plenty of criticisms of Edward Said. I like him. I think he was based. I've read The Wretched of the Earth, by the way. I've read A Dying Colonialism. Actually, I haven't read A Dying Colonialism. I've read Black Skin, White Masks. But Edward Said only learnt Arabic later on in his life. He learnt Arabic later on in his life. The way in which apparently he became most acquainted with people in the Middle East was later on during the Second Intifada. No, I actually think that most of the people who dislike Hasan, who aren't fucking idiots, like obviously people like this are fucking idiots, but I think quite a lot of people who dislike Hasan, by the way, are quite intelligent individuals who are disliking him for reasons that are pretty reasonable, in the sense of like talking about, hey, I don't like this thing he does, or I have criticisms of these things and this things, these things and this things about him. I just think ultimately, I think he's generally a positive influence. Yeah. But as well, what was I going to say? There are a couple of other things I wanted to say here. I do want to read... I read Amis's... Actually, probably the last theory book I read was what's Ami Cesaire's book? Oh God, the one with the quote about Hitler, and I read that. What is it? Is that A Dying Colonialism? Or did I get that wrong? Discourse on Colonialism. I read that recently. It's very short though, so it's barely a theory book. More leftists needs to be reading Marcus Aurelius than cut the reactionary bullshit. Most institutions choose to promote the other while not allowing the other a voice. Well, also, there are plenty of theories in Edward Said's work that aren't developed enough. Going into psychoanalysis, it's not about old versus new, but materialism versus idealism. You lose a lot of Marxists when you start going into psychoanalytics. It's not about old versus new, but materialism versus idealism. I mean, a lot of people just think, like, Todd McGowan does say some pretty libbed out things, and his, like, understanding of the world is actually not necessarily perfect, and he sometimes actually does say idiotic things. However, simultaneously, like, the way he thinks and the kind of things he proffers, I think are really interesting. I think it is really interesting. There are tons of modern Marxists, though. Lenin and Marx aren't necessary because the conditions are the same now, but because their modern theory builds on definitions introduced by them. Yeah, and I mean, I've read quite a considerable number of modern Marxists. Like, Frantz Fanon is a psychoanalyst. How to tell if an author is goated. More leftists should be reading The Lustier Carconian Maid. I don't think you're wrong about that. But yeah, I think for me, I've spent a lot of time reading Adam Tooze recently, is the main person that I've been reading, to be honest. I've been finding Adam Tooze's thought very appealing. I like Adam Tooze. I think reading and learning more about the world around me is a very interesting thing, and that's kind of the person I've been focusing on. I don't know whether... The Deluge is kind of like a history book, a history philosophical book. If you're responding to sometimes, I don't know what you're talking about when I'm not looking at the chat. Sure, sorry. Argonian Faces, Khajit Faces. I wish I had read Chomsky before the whole Epstein debacle. It's pretty good, the Epstein debacle. It's pretty good, the Epstein debacle. Chomsky's work was pretty good. Some of it's decent. I haven't read enough to think that he's like some awful character. And what have I read of his? A couple of essays. There's one about the Intifada. I've read his book on Palestine. I've read chapters of Manufacturing Consent, but I don't know. It's all right. It's pretty good. And I probably would have a much larger feeling if I'd read the whole thing. But aside from that, thinking of things I've read from it, from Chomsky, not in a very long time. I've read some of Optimism Over Despair, but his Twilight series theory. Yes, Twilight series is theory. Chomsky theorized manufacturing consent with someone else whose name I've forgotten. I've not read the Arcades Project. I've only read part of it. I've read The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. How do I know who to trust? I don't think there is any one person to trust, I'm going to be honest. I think, there just isn't. I think you should spend your time reading and consuming as much as you can from different people's opinions about different things. I think that's probably the only way that you're going to be able to understand and grasp the world around you. And that's still a very tough task, and being present of mind is very complex. I haven't actually read much Parenti at all. No, basically none. I haven't even really watched many of his lectures. I read more of Anderson and Benedict Anderson, not Perry. I've never read any Perry Anderson, or not knowingly at least. And I've never read, and I read more of Benedict Anderson and Eric Hobsbawm when I first started doing this kind of stuff. Couldn't tell you much. I don't really remember. I read On History when I was 18 or 19, so That was about 6-7 years ago. Probably have to reread it. But not to trust the only person to not trust people. Best not to trust only one person and to not trust people without a question. No, definitely not. I think that you make a good point. I think that you're right as well, Kyle, that, you know, the answer is not to trust anything inherently and be constantly critical. I don't think you're wrong about that. Hey, Nagok, thank you for becoming a member. Greatly appreciated. Did you watch Bad Empanada's video on Cuba? Only the start. I've been quite busy. I was quite busy yesterday evening. I was watching Paris, Texas. So, Paris, Texas. Yeah. It was good. But thanks again, Nagok, for becoming a member. Shout out. I don't think Professor Zhang is really to blame for the growth of online Nazis. I think the guy's a bit of an idiot, but I don't think he necessarily exclusively is to blame for that. No, I've never heard of Gabrielle Rockhill. I was watching it, but then you started the stream. Good. Good. I've also read a lot of Jan Werner Müller in recent years. I don't even know what Jan Werner Müller is ideologically. I'm not sure what he considers himself, whether he's a liberal or whatever the hell. But quite a lot of his books are quite interesting. Contesting Democracy, I remember being really good. I read a lot about democracy when I was in my undergraduate, but I didn't really read much. And then I read huge amounts about Orientalism for my masters. Isaac also keeps fucking tweeting
I know a lot of
ignoring me. Isaac, if you're hearing this, reply to me. Isaac is currently beefing with people on Twitter. He spent ages arguing with John instead of replying to me. He quoted Che Guevara: "To send men to the firing squad is judicial proof. To send men to the firing squad, judicial proof is unnecessary. A revolution must become a cold killing machine by pure hate." He sourced it from... The quote doesn't even... This guy, it's just Isaac arguing with this guy that Che Guevara never killed anyone.
A lot of op-eds on the topic like to use Cuba Archive as a source, like this HuffPost article. Researchers have documented 216 victims of Che Guevara in Cuba from 1957 to 1959. Wow, I gotta check this out. Oh nice, an Error 404 page. That's some good-ass journalism right there. In almost every slanderous article or blog post I read on the topic of Guevara,
By the way, I think Isaac and I will actually do some... one thing we've been thinking about is... we've been thinking about something which is doing, like, a couple of episodes about, like, specific leaders and their thoughts in the Middle East. Is the volume bad on that? What the fuck? It's average for me.
Definitive claim that Che killed X amount of people would redirect
Sorry, I
me to Cuba Archive, specifically this for...
I apologize for that. I don't know why that's loud.
Post.
Anyway, let's actually let's cover the more funny stuff as a little light reprieve. And I think we're going to do an episode about Gaddafi, and also maybe one day about Thomas Sankara as well. Overzealous Canadian, how similar Isaac... What? I don't think Isaac sounds similar to him at all. I think that Isaac doesn't actually sound like him at all. Noah, at least. I haven't seen Noah in a while. I haven't heard from him. I don't know what Noah's up to. You're much quieter than it. So strange. Chris, have you heard the theories that the Houthis may just go in and topple KS if they get called? The Houthis are not going to topple Saudi Arabia. I also think that the US is lying. I think that the US is categorically lying. I think that, I think US media is lying about Saudi Arabia. I really find it complex for someone to give me a reason why Saudi Arabia would make itself more of a target. What it is that Saudi Arabia possesses to do more damage to the Iranians than, anyone else. I don't think that that's actually a plausible thing. I think that it's categorically untrue. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I quickly just wanted to post Ethan's Basement, who I need to chat to because he hasn't been editing videos for me because I haven't obviously recorded any when I'm here. Ethan's Basement. Great guy. I also might start doing video essays again at some point. Ethan's Basement had a great tweet because there was this little piece of... someone claimed that Ethan Klein posted 800 plus Instagram stories about Hasan since the beginning of 2026. The two have not spoken to each other in nearly a year. Ethan has not posted 800 stories about Hasan. It's not true. It hasn't happened. It's like some fucking stupid... It's obviously a lie, but still, Ethan has posted a huge amount. He said... I just went through my archive. I counted 15. That's 5 per month on average. By the way, I don't post Instagram stories about anyone. I think posting Instagram stories is insane. I don't know why you're posting Instagram stories about why you hate people. I really don't know what the point is. I genuinely have no idea. Like, my Instagram stories are saying I am live, or they're a post about some kind of thing that's fucking happening in the world. I guess the only reason that I kind of wanted to talk about this is how similar so many people have become. I know it's a joke, but the actual number is pretty insane. The actual number is still pretty insane. But for me, it's just how so many people become obsessed with Cuba as like a way to kind of talk down to Hasan Piker. Like, they don't have any interest in what's actually going on in Cuba or how things got so bad. They just generally would rather believe that Cubans are like all miserable because the government is bad. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that there's necessarily the Cuban government has never done anything wrong. It's a government responding to realities of being sanctioned, to being, to being kind of targeted by having the most powerful empire throughout its entire existence on its doorstep. Like, until China has grown in power, until recently, like, the thing is that it's always had the most powerful empire right next to it, just sanctioning it. And Cuban people who live there have spat in the face of American imperialism, and I think that's good. In the same way that I think, like, the Iranian government is actually incomparable to Cuba. Cuba has never done the things that the Iranian government has done. Like, I'm sorry, I cannot sit here and propagandize for the Iranian government. Khomeini authorized just a mass murder spree of children, and well, not children, but young people in prison who had basically done nothing wrong, out of spite, basically. Hello, Papayaka, good to see you. But the Cuban government, the truth is Cuba's never been allowed to succeed. And how was a tiny island nation meant to recover from COVID? You know, how was that ever meant to be possible? Internet drama about random streamers is dystopian. I think so as well. I think drama has its place in the sense of it's a means to get more people to watch what you're saying. And I think it's actually kind of a problem. And it's kind of why, you know, I think I should think critically about about TikTok and stuff. That TikTok is not actually necessarily a really good platform to be using. That TikTok is a platform that actually incentivizes drama entirely because that's all people will click for the first few seconds. Like, if you look at how people did fundraising pretty cleverly, there was literally a couple of accounts that were basically just dedicated entirely to fake things that would actually promote fundraisers, which were very smart and well done to the people who did that. but it's just a problem of the platform. Did they behead a bunch of babies too? What the Iranian government, it's not even propagandizing against the Iranian government. You can look into it. They were purges in the 1980s. Khomeini authorized them. There were figures in Iran who wrote against them, figures within the regime who were like, this is actually wild what you are doing. Khomeini was very bitter. And it was in response to the MKO who'd tried to engage in a military invasion of Iran. They did actually militarily invade Iran with the backing of the Iraqis, and the Iraqis just left them to get slaughtered by the Iranians who militarily succeeded. But then afterwards there was a huge purge in prisons, and some of the people were like hardened MKO people who had engaged in like, you know, killings or crimes or whatever. But some of them were just children and young people who'd like handed out MKO leaflets and stuff, and they asked them all these misleading questions and then got them killed, basically. You know, it's tough. It's tough. It is tough, and it's impossible to defend. Was Hasan doing that? Defending Platner or complaining about people being anti-Platner? In his chat, I haven't seen him doing that, but I look, you know my positions on Platner. Elimination of potential rivals is the through line of modern capitalist civilization, cooperation, and apparently supposed to be frightening and alien. I mean, yeah, and also the truth is that the Western states possess mechanisms to do it without basically to do this stuff without basically needing to engage in mass killing. So much has mattered in just the last month that it's really apparent that he doesn't matter. He has no emotion, but is also politically and generally illiterate, just trying to stay relevant. Yeah, and I mean, the way to stay relevant is to talk about how much you hate Hasan. I don't see Hasan as an op, and I don't think I'll ever be able to, because I'm going to be frank here. I would rather people were watching him than the other stuff. And I think like on the general big streamers that people are watching, and I haven't seen him defending Platner. I don't like that. I don't think that there's any reason to defend Platner. I don't think Platner winning is a good thing. I don't think people who are in the US military, like Brace Belden said something funny. He said that a US veteran should be forced to pay for 2 drinks, one for themselves, and should pay twice, one for themselves and one for the people that they've slaughtered. Denying Cuba success is also denying us the realization that we could have a better system that improves the quality of life for people. To suppress ours, they suppress theirs. I mean, exactly. Like, realistically, that's what it is. You know, that's what it is. You know, that's what it boils down to. That if Cuba were to be successful, right on the doorstep of the American empire, it would prove to people that life could be better, that life could be different, that things in your life could change and could be positive. But people actually use it as an example of like, oh, if you're a leftist and you defend Cuba, you're fucking evil because Cuban people are suffering. And it's like, why do you think that they suffer? Why do you think that they suffer? There are very, unless someone is like advocating strongly for Israel's genocide, or also being a liberal Zionist of pretending that the Israeli government is is just one problem and that this isn't actually an issue that is endemic to having a Jewish supremacist settler colony in the MENA region, then I'm not going to find them to be that much of an op on foreign policy, like genuinely on Palestine related stuff. And I think that ultimately, in terms of like, yeah, I don't know, troops from some of you, a lot of them are not even equipped to know what they have signed up to be doing. Many regret their actions later. But even if that were true with some of them, I don't think that is true when it comes to Platner. I don't think Platner regretted what he did at all. I don't think that that's true at all. And I think a lot of US troops are not like that. I think that a lot of troops are not like that. That there are some who do regret it, but there are many who don't, who are very happy with what they've done. Taking even a moment to skim the history of Cuba or Batista very quickly puts everything into perspective. Turns out people don't enjoy being dominated by fascist psychopaths. Or the case of Iran. I think if you just go through the history of Iran and you look at it, in the case of Iran, it's not some example of mental opposition to the West that comes from nowhere. The case is that Iranians didn't want to be dominated by foreign occupation for a very long time, and that their opposition to the West, even in the case of the Islamic Republic, did actually behave with pragmatism at points. There were just certain things that Khomeini did that were just insane. Like the fatwa against Salman Rushdie was insane. It didn't make any sense, doing the fatwa. By the way, you know, Ali Khamenei actually opposed the fatwa, if you wanted to know a little of what he is. Ugh. Feel any remorse. You're still part of a sociopathic colonial fighting force. Feeling bad about it doesn't make any material difference. Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. That feeling bad doesn't really change anything. I guess you can spend your time like trying to dedicate yourself to change what you once were and the things that you'd once done, but that's tough, and I don't think becoming a Democratic Party politician is going to actually do that. I don't think that's any way accountability for what you've done. The dead are still dead, their land is still destroyed, even if you feel remorse. Yes, definitely, and I don't think Platner is really working to change that. He did give some answer on Palestine that was all right the other day, but even then there was a big pause, and I feel like it was just some pre-planned explanation of what's happening. I don't know what his opinion is on Iran beyond... I don't know what his opinion is. Oh my god. Someone is just... Someone has just shown a small fraction of Ethan's stories. Hold on. Is Ash Sakar a socialist? Bro, I don't know what Ash Sakar's up to. She was on, I saw someone pointed out that she was on like there's a podcast in the UK called What Is Left, and she was on it, and one of the guys was like the Labour social media manager or something to that effect. It's insane. The role for vets should be SRA or a movement like Vets Against War during Vietnam. Maybe that is the only option. I don't know. It's just kind of like that the US, there is no way to go forward with it. He defends Patna, loves trying to crowbar socialist language into supporting the Dems, doesn't abide by BDS. What does Hasan not abide by BDS on? Defends Mamdani beyond reason, and is now doing this performative style of flotilla. Wouldn't you argue that like all flotillas are performative in some ways? That most of the ones to Gaza didn't break the siege, that they would thus be performative, and they weren't going to fix the situation in Gaza? I'm just wondering, like, if you think that this one is particularly performative. He drinks Coke. I thought he stopped drinking Coke. The hardest thing that I've had to give up for BDS personally. What a major sacrifice. Woe is me. I don't know. I feel like you should probably just give up drinking Coke. There are also alternatives that you can drink that are fine. None of them taste as good, but the only time I've broken BDS on a Coke is I had a Cuba Libre when I was in I had a Coke when I was there by accident. the Turkish flotilla was murdered. Of course, the Turkish flotilla was murdered. I suppose that adds an element of danger. Gaza Cola is pretty good. I'm going to be honest, I don't love Gaza. I don't love Gaza Cola. But I also don't understand, like, what is the kind of thing to just criticize everything and to find solace in the fact that the world is bad and ending, or try and advocate for change in some way? Like, I know. Cuba Libre would be. The Cuba Libre was, and I was like, my girlfriend asked me, she was like, why did you get a Cuba Libre? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, it has Coke in it, you moron. Hasan is definitely often willing to excuse a lot of bad things US politicians do that want to give Americans better conditions do. He's completely in the best we have mentality, which I think is problematic. The problem is in America is that there's just no alternative, is there? There's like nothing. There's no alternative. Isaac has responded to me with absolute shit about me being Italian, and I don't want to read it. It's disgusting. Buying a new iPad to replace my computer because much of the battery parts come from the Democratic Republic of Congo. It is this unfortunate thing. I think abiding by BDS is just like a bare minimum to do, really. These criticisms, then there's critique. Most will confuse criticism and critique with just say shit without any analysis. Basically like a crying baby. I don't know. Criticizing them having a flotilla is stupid as hell. They just shouldn't have solicited donations for their flights and accommodations. Yeah, I mean, that also wasn't Hasan doing it. I guess that's what's it called? Progressive International doing it. The alternative is to build a socialist party. In America, I don't doubt that building a socialist party is the alternative. I don't doubt that you're wrong, that there is no way to redeem the Democrats. But I just mean in America, there just seems to be no fucking alternative to the Democrats. Like in the UK, it might actually happen that the Green Party might win. And sometimes Polanski says and does things that I don't necessarily love. But yeah. It's tough. I want socialism to win, not myself or any elected in general. I mean, I hope for that too. I do hope for that because I do believe that capitalism has to end. Like, if capitalism doesn't end, we're just doomed. Well before Hasan, when he's not even paying for his own fucking travel. Did he not pay for his own travel? I don't know. The left is criticising people for doing flotillas. This movement is cooked. I mean, there is stuff to say, like, definitely to say, hey, maybe, this solicitation of donations is a bit unusual when most of the people could have afforded. I guess there were some people on there who probably aren't as wealthy from what they've done. But, I don't know, just looking at what's going on in Cuba, bringing attention to that, and even producing all this stupid fucking discourse, like these people talking about it, kind of makes this point of how much of a failure there is amongst people who claim to be leftists online. Third party is not viable here yet. We deal with the trash politicians we get as best we can. Torching Hasan because Jesus hasn't returned yet is daft. I mean, there's definitely a point to that. I do think people have meaningful criticisms of the Democrats that are significant. For 30 mins, Hasan VODs. I will look into it. Thank you. There is no alternative. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Greens were considered the loony party with zero presence even on a local level in the UK. Why did you... What did you mean to spell it like... Nixon, did you mean to spell that like that fucking meme, UK? Or is that just a typo? And now they're hot. Yeah, I think you're right about that. The no alternative. It just feels in the case of America that it's a bit different. That, like, the amount of money... I guess, you could talk about how the debt... Like, that you just couldn't gain the monetary ability to challenge either of these parties. But, yeah, I don't know. Even, you're right in that. You are right. That saying that there is no alternative. I mean, how many votes did Eugene Debs get? It was a pretty insane number, right? Eugene Debs, and he was pretty based. I liked his quote about, like, when I rise, the masses rise with me. It is the UK. Why are you calling it white? Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were doing the meme that's like sort of a bit on the edge of being racist of calling it UK. But I get it. I get what you're saying now. left-wing working party, but won't even approach or discuss working class ideals with people who aren't already leftists. We literally do have to meet people there where they are. Yeah, and one of the like smartest and most interesting lecturers who I spent a lot of time with was always like, be careful of preaching to the choir. And I do sometimes worry in the case of just becoming someone who only talks to people who already feel like me. And I do believe that the sentiments run within people to change their minds and make them feel very differently. Yeah. I mean, I don't know enough about Debs. I know that he has a lot of good quotes and that he was like a genuine alternative, but I don't know how actually progressive he was. Because I know like a lot of people who were progressive at certain points were also like pretty fucking racist at times. I think the US should run more progressives like Kat Abu Ghazaleh. Surely with the arms sales to Taiwan and CIA outfits, we can reform the Democratic Party. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that we can one day. The US right-wing capitalists have spent decades destroying unions on purpose. The devil works hard, but capitalists work harder. Yeah, I mean, looking in the UK context, it's... I don't know. I think that when you're like... I think that you're... when you're talking about, like... the destruction of unions, it's like an even worse matter in the UK. Like hospitality workers have no unions, and so many of the problems that hospitality workers face are just so fucking insane. Liberals are not keeping out any fascists. No, you're not wrong. Liberals are not keeping out any fascists, and they're just paving the way to worse and worse fascism, which is why, you know, one, I'm glad I don't live in the US, so I don't have this insane choice between Trump and Kamala and stuff like that, and I don't have to deal with that. But also simultaneously, I'm glad because I don't have to. But also simultaneously, I do think they just kick the can down the road. I really do. If Israel has a right to defend itself, then Iran has an equal right. I mean, Iran does have a right to defend itself, and Iran has shown that it actually has an ability to defend itself, and what actually happens. Why it actually has happened. And by the way, I'm not denying whether it's important to read them or not, but whether it's like I'm not denying it's important, but kind of this thing of like they're responding to a reality around them, responding to a reality around them that has changed, and they're not the be all and end all of the people who've, you know, innovated Marxism or written it through different lenses and angles. That cat thing was funny because when Hasan found out, he said, I must send her to talk to some people. I don't know. The normal person still thinks communism is evil. Literally had my boss say that we're saving Cuba from communism. Also, it's still illegal for outward communists to be in union leadership. Is it actually? I didn't know that. I mean, I think something is that's really important about the point I mean more is that most people are actually open to like most of the improvements that communism offers, but obviously saying communism is a bit of a red flag to a lot of people. I remember talking to someone from the gym and he was like pointing out like some communists from Cardiff University, and he was like, what do you think of this? And I was like, I don't know, like, fine, like, I you know, they can do as they please, like, it's their choice, they're advocating for better things, and they were, like, talking to me about communism a bit, and I was like, maybe you would be less off-put by communism, but probably most of the things that they're advocating for are just the betterment of they're just advocating for the betterment of, you know, students' conditions in the country. We're already seeing gas and diesel prices go up. The worst part is that Cast's idiotic administration, instead of keeping inflation in check, is actually trying to drive it up. Are they? Is that actually the case? I mean, I don't know. I really worry that what's going to happen around the world, I really worry that what the crisis that's coming... Compared the right of return to a second nightmare. Yeah, by the way, that's fucking insane. I think that these are obviously questions, and some people would probably be upset by, like, you know, the position of some, and there are, like, discrepancies and differences. I remember a big point of contention was over the military. I do actually think that was really important. Like, the military in a post-Israel state of Palestine And I don't think you could give the Israelis any control over any kind of military entity. I don't. I think Israel have forfeited their right far more than Palestinians have. Palestinians have never had a formal military. And actually right now, Palestinians have the most cucked formal military imaginable in the West Bank. It's not even a formal military. So, you know, the Palestinian Authority have shown that they can run a cucked military in the Middle East. So they've proven their credentials. My idiot conservative father unironically says the best case government would be a benevolent dictator. So yeah, they love fascism as long as it's kind to them. I mean, yes, most people do. I don't know. The innovations of even Hegseth's kind of fascism are really quite interesting, because right now the US government doesn't even bother justifying its wars with objectives. Like, Hegseth is just talking about kicking people whilst they're down and uploading videos of blowing people up with buttons as if those are kind of like, you know, epic and amazing things. There's no attempt to report to like show. Jan Werner Müller pointed this out. Like 20th century fascism had this attempt to promote or symbolically reward self-sacrifice. In the US, it is just you get to blow people up as a distance, and that's kind of awesome. Defense is entirely dependent on who started it. Yeah, you are right about that. It's very obvious that the US and Israel launched a completely illegal war. I think it's insane to say no right of return. It is the exact same argument that white South Africans and white slave owners in the US. And it's also, by the way, South Africa is not like this amazing example of how Palestine should go. It's actually a warning case of what happens when you enshrine the rights of the white minority too much in terms of like property rights in particular. Because if you look into South Africa's problems, by the way, they're actually insane. They are genuinely insane. I did also, when we were talking to Daniel Denver, he was talking about how messy Latin American socialism and politics have actually been, which was quite interesting. And something I probably would love to learn more about. I'm no expert in Latin America. As you guys well know, my focus is on the Middle East, which is kind of why, long term, I hope the podcast takes off and I can stream less, because I hope I can stream less, because I just enjoy the research aspect more. But it's tough, you know, because a lot of the time I'm just consumed by reading the fucking Financial Times, although they've taken away my paywall remover. Can confirm, am South African. Yeah, and someone said racial inequality. Racial inequality is enshrined there basically because of it is enshrined because of private property accumulated via apartheid not being dealt with. Like, it is just a major issue. Like, white people won't sell their land to black people because they're like, no, you're going to build slums or whatever here, and then we won't have like any good or meaningful life. Will ever recommend their job to a new recruit? Wait. Navy pilots are already being held hostage well beyond the minimum reserve. What? What do you mean? American ones? What is to be done with the population where 83% support the genocide in Gaza and 82% support the strikes in Iran? The only solution I can think of is a large-scale re-education. No, I don't think it is sketchy. I genuinely think you need a re-education, and I think that re-education revolves around abandoning Zionism. By the way, on the topic of, that's why there's like such a red line around liberal Zionism. I spent a lot of time talking to a lecturer who wrote a lot about this, who actually did the face-to-face meetings between Palestinians and Israelis, and they told me a lot about like what failed about them. And the thing that she said was mainly the problem is that they wouldn't abandon Zionism because they were still Zionists and they largely believed that Israel's inception was fine. It's why saying Israel has a right to exist is the biggest red flag imaginable. Because saying Israel has a right to exist is not actually really about, you know, whether Israel has a right to exist or not. It's an abstract concept that is like totally fucking meaningless. It's about basically, do you recognize whether the Israeli government's beginning and inception was immoral and unjust, and that we don't have to say that that was okay or acceptable. Whether it was morally just and acceptable. Who says was abandoning imperialism, abandoning capitalism? Yes. In the context of Israelis specifically, Israel doesn't have a right to exist. Of course, it doesn't have a right to exist, but no state has a right to exist. Chomsky actually spoke about this. The West has made re-education to be such a scary word that is associated with authoritarianism, but it's a humane solution to a deeply sick society. Yes, and literally, re-education did not go far enough in Nazi Germany. It didn't categorically. By the way, a lot of them portrayed. I can't remember who it was who portrayed. Was it Adenauer? Adenauer. Is it Adenauer or Adenauer? Because I heard someone say Adenauer the other day, but Adenauer. Anyway, Adenauer, I'm pretty sure portrayed giving reparations to Israel as a way to basically not have to deal with the problems of the Holocaust anymore. If you looked at most Germans, they had the same opinion, by the way, of they had the same opinion, the opinion that the Jewish people were bad. Adenauer. Okay, Adenauer. Okay, cool. I've only ever seen it written. But in Brazil, there are more people of Portuguese, African, and other descent. Yeah, but they got that good stew. I don't know what the stew's called with the beans, the sausages, and all of the meat. I like that shit. That shit's fire. Right, let's just quickly watch this. This is just a compilation of Ethan's IG stories about Hasan. Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow, this feels like, sorry if any of you have epilepsy, you're done out here. I don't even think I've posted this many feijoada. Yeah, that shit is fire. Oh my goodness. Adenauer? Is it Adenauer or Adenauer? Feijoada, they have that in England. No. Well, they do, but it's not authentic. I had some relatively authentic feijoada I had it in Montreal. Montreal got fire food. Montreal's just fire in general. Well, by the way, one day I'll meet up with Isaac here. Okay. Oh, by the way, new favorite story about yesterday is this. I love this recent innovation of who introduced you to feijoada? My girlfriend. Ugh. Yeah, I thought it was AU was like that. It is good. It's heavy. I like that shit. Sorry, quickly. Traders placed $580 million oil bet ahead of Trump's post on Iran talks. I love the naked corruption. I actually love it. The amount of money that you could make from this is incredible. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is genuinely unbelievable. There was actually, wait. There was a Sky News investigation of who this might have been, which is kind of incredible, or who placed this bet. It's just someone in the Trump administration.
Normally, in these screens, in the last few weeks, we've been talking about the economic implications of the Iran war. But this time I want to talk about something else. It's kind of a mystery story. It's a mystery story. And the mystery begins with this. This was the Donald Trump social media post, Truth Social, that for a lot of people made them think that maybe this war might be coming to an end. At the very least, it had a big impact on markets. And the thing I want you to focus on is not necessarily the text of this, but it's the time it came out. 11:05, that's UK time. So 11:05 in the UK. It was earlier in the morning in the US, obviously. And look at the impact that this had, okay? So this is showing you the crude oil price. It's the US kind of benchmark of the crude oil price, WTI as it's known. And you can probably spot already the moment that Donald Trump post happened. The oil price went down really sharply, and we've had lots of ups and downs, lots of volatile days on markets in recent days. But this was something else. As traders went out there and they basically said, we're selling oil because we think that things...
This is really exciting because who knows what's actually going to happen? Like, who knows what's going on with the Iran war? Because this is not sane or coherent. But it actually might be ending because I found out about this really important story. J.D. Vance reportedly yelled at Netanyahu. Vance's office denied the reports. Israel is behaving like a primitive state. This is from Miriam Adelson, has told us that apparently Israel is behaving like a primitive state. I don't know, it's just kind of this insane thing of basically Trump can just lie and the markets accept it. But I guess it kind of shows you how somewhat fictitious the whole world around you is.
Might get a little bit better. But here's what I want to focus on that you don't normally see in these charts. Not just the price, so that's the oil price, but the volumes. You can actually look at this. You can look at just how many people are buying and selling at any given moment. And have a look at volumes. So these bars are showing you the volumes. So at the given moment that obviously that Donald Trump post happened, you had this massive increase in a lot of people going out there into the market and say, look, something's happening. We need to actually act on it. For the most case, selling at this point. But here's the curious thing, and here's kind of where the mystery is.
Yeah, like obviously Nancy Pelosi is doing insider trading. These guys are just doing it to a way larger extent.
I want to kind of zoom in on this area here. So I'll kind of zoom in so you can see. This is just the volumes of people going into that oil market and kind of, for the most part, selling after that Donald Trump post. You can see there's this real spike in activity. A lot of people going in there, kind of this frenzy. And that's the kind of flip side of prices. But look at this.
But by the way, commentator, I don't actually think it matters whether anything big comes out. There is nothing big that can fix this. There is literally nothing big that can come out. Like, what could, right now, okay, what could come out and say the world economy is going to be fixed? Already it's fucked as a result of this. Like, it's going to take a long time to recover. Qatar is not going to be able to produce enough liquefied natural gas. Isn't there, like, at some point, trust in the market structure will fully erode? Well, the whole point of, like, The Big Short as a film and, like, the reality of what was going on, right, is basically that just there were lots of people who could quite easily work this out, but no one wanted to believe it. I think it's just this whole thing of how much people believe it that, yeah, I don't know. That people are gonna, that people are basically gonna just give up on this. I don't think they will. Too many people are too invested in it. You know, Americans' lives are defined by what they call their 401ks.
Amounts of money, $580 million. Someone has just made a real killing on this. And it's not just oil. So that's oil, two different measures of oil. But now have a look at the S&P 500. So this is S&P 500 futures. It's the biggest kind of exchange, stock market, equity market in the world. Same thing again. Donald Trump posts. The price goes up because people are getting very hopeful. Volumes go up at the same time. And if we zoom into the volumes, once again, what do you see? Obviously, there's the volume after Donald Trump made his post, but 15 minutes before, this is actually 10:50 UK time, a very, very big trade. As I say, life-changing amounts of money, hundreds of millions of dollars were potentially made in those moments in this curious trade that seemed to come out of nowhere, leaving a lot of people wondering, was this just luck? Or did someone actually know what the president was about to say?
I like how they've left it up for interpretation.
Normally, in these screens, in the last few weeks, we've been...
I like how they've just basically said, oh, judge me... how they've basically just said, oh, it's up for interpretation. It's very obviously not up for interpretation. It's very obvious that there's just doing insider trading. Like, this has happened over and over again. And at a certain point, you probably just have to realise that this is just being done in order to make huge, huge, huge amounts of money. I mean, I guess you could just gamble on it and you could just predict that Trump was going to release some statement to calm the market. But I guess so close to the speech and not knowing and risking that much money is kind of crazy. I don't know. Like, there are indicators, by the way, that things might be changing slightly. So this person, Jumana Nasser Barachete? I don't know. Anyway, she said that Yanbu has allowed Saudi Arabia to revive half of its shipments it would have sent through Hormuz. The cost of lifting Saudi crude from the Red Sea has fallen sharply, with indicative freight rates down about 58% for 2 weeks. I think that the other thing that just doesn't make sense to me is, like, kind of talking about... I think it kind of doesn't make sense to me, as if you look at the fact that 1 million barrels going missing would cause major issues, but 10 million barrels is not causing anywhere near the effect that anyone would be expecting it to have. I'm sorry, and also, like, oil on paper trading at a way higher level. I bet if Drac the Ripper was here, he'd have something to say about this. But yeah, oil on paper is apparently trading at way higher levels. And also, by the way, oil is now surging back up. Apparently it's back to $93 a barrel because Iran keeps denying that there are peace talks. Now, I don't think there are peace talks. I think that this has been a bit of a fictitious lie. I think the problem is America has destroyed its credibility in terms of actually doing any kind of peace talk. Pretty obviously, they've destroyed all credibility of doing a peace talk. Because when you keep killing people and you keep bombing and using the peace talks as a mean to build up, it's,
Thing that this.
And the other notable thing is noted by Dr. Siavush Ranjbar Dayemi is saying something here.
Is Trump all over again, talking up diplomacy before some form of a heavy military offensive. They see deja vu of June 2025, and of course the days preceding the start of this campaign on the 28th of February. And in both times there were grandiose diplomatic claims by Trump, but what came out of it actually, well, in June 2025 it was Israel going solo and then America intervening later, and in February 2026 it was America from the first place. The attention of many now is not so much the power plants. There's great concern about what could happen if the Iranian grid was knocked off. But people are pointing to the fact that this deadline, this 5-day deadline, ends on Friday. That's when the Marines are due into the Persian Gulf. And the attention of many Iranian observers is on that. So there is so far quite a bit of skepticism regarding this idea that this is really a true and genuine diplomatic gambit.
Also, another little notable point about this is someone is now claiming that the 82nd Airborne, which I believe are the ones that they're sending, are actually in Djibouti. I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't believe a lot of the stuff that we're seeing. The 82nd Airborne has received an order from the Pentagon to deploy to the Middle East along an infantry bridge consisting of thousands of soldiers. Obviously, this is not a full-scale ground invasion. The build-up is nowhere near fucking big enough. It just isn't. And the second it is big enough, we will all know about it. People knew about the build-up pre the Iraq War. Shut up. That's one big booty. Djibouti, yeah. All these polls are biased garbage propaganda. Who do they even poll? Majoring in political science under their influence. I certainly never get polled, did you? Are you talking about polling under authoritarian countries, by the way, is just utter bullshit. Polling in general, like people telling you that Israel is, that most people in the UK don't oppose Israel. I rarely meet someone who knows much about Israel and doesn't oppose it. I either think that it is like people who don't care about politics, so are like, I don't care. people who don't care about politics and probably push towards liking Israel a bit. But also on the whole, people who don't know that much see children getting killed and they're like, hey, that's wrong. They've seen maybe the like Louis Theroux thing, and people aren't so fussed about October the 7th anymore because it's so long ago. And let's be real here, like in the context of what Israel's done, October the 7th is just a drop in the ocean. Also, by the way, James Ray said this on the podcast we did with him. It was pretty inevitable that the build-up was going to be here and this was going to be the... what was going to happen. The US is expected to send thousands of additional US soldiers to the Middle East. Two people familiar with the matter said. By the way, this is a security reporter from Reuters. He's an alright source if you want to see like stuff getting stuff being spammed in the chat. I don't know. Stuff being spammed on Twitter. It's pretty obvious that the British Royal Navy is expected to lead coalition efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Really? No, apparently the UK is saying they'll offer to host a summit, so this person is just talking out their arse. Jet Journalist is probably not my number... Jet Journalist is going to be made my number one source, actually. I was about to say he's probably not, but he is. And you asked, do I think it's just about Kharg? Trump has a long-term ideological obsession with Kharg Island, so quite possibly he will look into invading in Kharg Island, but also... there is this other major point vis-a-vis what's going on in terms of trying to seize the uranium, the highly enriched uranium. But I think that'll be a death trap. But putting soldiers on the ground in Kharg is like the biggest death trap imaginable. So if they do that, it'll be really, really interesting as to what will happen there. Sorry, I'm looking at this thing of I don't know, just people saying that yesterday the ambulance burning was a false flag. Maybe it is. This person posted a funny thing. They posted a photo of Saddam Hussein saying, I think a military occupation of Kharg Island is game over for the Iranians, so we're making sure they know they have until Friday to strike a deal. They're not going to strike a deal. They are not. The offers, by the way, the problem is what the Iranians need are just not going to be accepted by the US until the US is made to keep feeling the pain. If the US instigates like negotiations in this kind of way, I don't think it's going to work like this. I think all of this is kind of bullshit. Also, right, so Jewish current, I've just seen someone kind of... What have I just missed? Wait, how have I missed something? What is that? Did you see Bad Empanadas? It's good, if you'd like to know Isaac's opinion as well, if you could ask on the next podcast. I'm sure it is good. I will probably watch it. It's just him talking to Cubans, right, in my understanding. I watched, like, the start, which is just, like, basic Cuba history, and then he's kind of, like, moving on to, like, other stuff. But I will have a look. Thank you for the donation, and I'm sorry if some noise scared you. Sorry, it's the volume here is fucked. Trusting peace talks while seeing and also Nerves, thank you for the donation. I will check that video out. Thanks for the $5. Yeah. Trusting peace talks while seeing the kind of massive military accumulation around is kind of being naive. Yeah, I mean, part of me is like, it's too naive even for the Iranians, but also I think in the context of I think also in the context of Khamenei being killed in the way he was, I don't know. It might not be Kharg, it might be Kharg, it might be something else. Yeah, and if it's not Kharg, it's going to be the plutonium. The uranium, sorry, not plutonium. I don't even know what the hell they'd be using plutonium for. Anyway, Joe Kent's resignation was brave, but his analysis is faulty, writes Peter Beinart. Israel was not responsible for US wars in Iraq and Syria. To say so despite evidence to the contrary speaks to a dangerously conspiratorial worldview. So I got this tweet from this. Jewish Currents joining the Stop Blaming Israel Brigade. I do actually think to say on... Well, I don't know, because I think there probably is like a more complex and longer term explanation of how you can say having a Jewish settler colony in the Middle East and the way in which it has kind of influenced American policy and defined it is actually kind of something of like, hey, Israel may well have caused all of these wars, that Israel is in part and bears responsibility. I do think on Iraq, though, it is pretty faulty. Israel definitely is not this nation who was really against the Iraq war, as like some people try and claim now. I just don't think it was the major reason. I think it was about power around the Gulf and defining the Middle East in the way that they fucking want it to be, the way that the American empire wants it to be, which unfortunately is just in such close proximity to what Israel does, because America is Israel's backer, America is Israel's master, America is Israel's progenitor. Well, actually, no, Britain is probably the better example of the progenitor. You can use plutonium for nukes. I'm reporting you for telling me how to build nukes. What happens if the US finally starts to consider Iranian positions and then Israel ramps up strikes to disrupt them? I don't know. I think I don't know, man. I think a lot of that is like pro-Israel cope kind of stuff, or cope from like by the way, sorry, just quickly, I want to talk about that in a second. I will get back to what you've just started. I just want to reiterate here, I do actually see this as a problem, but more in the same way that you have this fucking issue with the Americans wanting to think that the American empire is good and moral, and that's where the problematic analysis lies. I think it is. I think that's where the problematic analysis lies. If you want to know why America did Iraq, look up how many bases were in the Gulf before and then after. Yeah, and I think that's the part that's often discredited, because we often look to oil when it's like, yeah, oil matters, and I no doubt America thinks it's a boon. But yeah, I don't know. I think Iran tried to hit the embassy. I think it tried to hit the embassy today. The USA isn't Israel's stepfather, it's the father that's... Fuck off. But no, I do actually think his analysis is faulty. And I don't know if some of you agree with me, because like, the Stop Blaming Israel Brigade, definitely on the war in Iran, I think you can blame Israel quite a lot in part, but, without discrediting the American empire. But I think just vis-a-vis Iraq, pretending that it's exclusively about Israel is stupid. Is Harg like some sort of obsession of old? No, Harg is an obsession of old. Jimmy Carter mulled taking Harg to get the American students back out of the embassy. And then they did the stupid Operation Eagle Claw. I wonder if the US is going to end up with like Operation Eagle Claw Part 2 2.0. It's actually a map in Battlefield, Harg Island, not Call of Duty, but you're right. One of the really big reasons is credibility. US trade's inability to exert forces under threat of violence. Iraq was a place they assessed they could do that. Yeah, and also like an unfinished thing. Like Iraq was unfinished. Iraq was unfinished under the first government. It was unfinished. Saddam took Khorramshahr. Saddam was like in what's it called, he took like parts of Western Iran, like southwestern Iran basically, right, and had them conquered and held for a while, but then lost them. Actually, he didn't hold them that long. In all of those, Israel was pushing, but the US was ultimately calling the shots. Yes, exactly. I think vis-a-vis Syria as well. By the way, part of that is actually about closing the final front of resistance to Syria, why the US and Israel wanted to be so involved in that, and why Obama was so interested in Syria's chemical weapons. It's not about, massacring your own population. Like, the US fundamentally doesn't care about that. They literally actually objectively do not care about that, even around that time. They didn't care when Sisi did it to huge numbers of people. It was about, balancing the region. To them, nations are like experiments rather than a home. They can just move to one of many places away from the lab, so to speak. America's government doesn't really represent Americans. It represents a globalist class of people with their own interests who actually don't care all that much about America. I suppose now more so, yeah. I think that they've just have abandoned all of that. They've been training Baron on Battlefield 3 for a decade for this very moment. I can't wait till Baron invades and then gets hit by an IED. But yeah, oh sorry, there was something, hold on. From Politico, the US says its plan is to keep assassinating Iranian leaders until a Delcy Rodriguez figure emerges who will do what they want. Article says the main thing is a future leader gives the US dibs on oil rights. We're in the testing phase of really trying to figure out who can rise or who wants to rise, who tries to rise, the first official said. And then as people rise, we'll do a quick test, and if they're radical, we'll take them out. Do you think that the difference, maybe someone in here is more of a Venezuela head than myself, do you think that the difference was that, like, after Chavez, like, Maduro was just such a shadow of what once was, that basically people were less interested in the American, of, like, standing up to the American empire, whereas in Iran it hasn't actually really, gone as much away, that it hasn't really in Iran, like the I don't know if that would be, maybe if someone was more of an Iran head than I, and also more of a Venezuela head, they'd be able to give you a better explanation of that. God, I also am starting to get really, really hungry. This sounds like an Onion headline. Yeah, just kill people until you get someone who's Delcy Rodriguez like. It really is amazing what American diplomacy has become. I think when you just get mad on bloodlust, though, and hopped up on, like, the success of removing Maduro, you kind of end up in this position. You kind of just, end up in this situation where this is it. By the way, some of you were speaking down on Christianity. Look what the Pope had to say. Pope Leo just called for the permanent abolition of aerial bombardment, a first from any pope. Airplanes should always be vehicles of peace, never war. No one should have to fear that threats of death and destruction might come from the sky. I remember when people were kind of worried about, was it Francis who came last? I'm not a Catholic, so don't expect me to remember the Pope's names. After he came, after he died, people were kind of worried. It is kind of woke. This is mega woke. And it's also true. Like, poor Cambodian people looked up to the sky. Most of them had never seen a fucking plane. And then they just got blown up. It's just awful. They should ban aerial bombardments. Hashtag make planes vehicles of peace. Pope is calling for boots on the ground. No, I think he is. I think he's spoken out against the war. Venezuelans are just fans of Chavistas and not necessarily Maduro, so they still think there is a strong hope because Chavistas are still in power. Interesting. Interesting. Well, no pope has previously called for an end to aerial bombardment. I think no, it's because it is too specific. No. The Pope is just a big fan of the Axis of Resistance, and he actually believes that the Axis of Resistance will be able to fight a successful ground war, and he hopes to send the Americans into their death. Okay, guys, with that, I can smell some very nice food cooking, which my girlfriend told me to say. She's making chicken piccata that is made with pork instead because we have pork. Sorry to all of my Muslims in the chat. I know if you post a photo of bacon, Muslims hate it. I learnt it from right-wingers. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for commenting. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'll be back at some point this week. When that is, I don't know, but I'll keep you updated. Again, thank you as always, and see you soon. This is the penultimate stream from Montreal, which is exciting. And then I'll be back to standard streaming from probably the 2nd or the 3rd. I'll stream all that weekend. Looking forward to that, but see you guys soon. Thanks for watching and commenting and being nice.